So the good news is that through positive habitat and conservation programs, we've seen an increase in the number of large carnivores on the landscape. From the flip side, this has resulted in more livestock being killed because of the close proximity of many of these ranches to the ranges of animals like grizzly bears, cougars, eagles, and coyotes. For the last number of years, since 1997, the Alberta Conservation Association has run a livestock compensation program. This program has been largely funded by anglers and hunters.
When the whole program started at ACA, our costs to run the program were just under $70,000 a year. That was back in 1997. In the last few years, we peaked out, over $500,000 for paying in compensation every year. So when you're getting up to $500,000 worth of payments, people start to take a look at it and say, what is this for? What is the benefit to our stakeholders, hunters and anglers, and should they be paying the whole thing? And the reality is that having large carnivores out in the landscape, the wolves, the bears, the cougars, isn't just a benefit to the hunters out there. And in fact, if a hunter tries to kill a wolf or a cougar, and as we recently seen, a hunter had killed a cougar, the general public gets pretty upset at that. So clearly the general public wants these animals out on the landscape, but what is the general public putting into the compensation program to make sure they stay out there?
As costs continue to rise, the big question is, where will the funds to compensate ranchers come from?
If we're going to increase the level of compensation, the Alberta Conservation Association doesn't have the funds to do that unless we want to take it out of other conservation programs. So our hunters and anglers are willing to take funds out of our other habitat programs or our pheasant release program or our fish stocking program to fund more compensation for predator losses. And I think I know the answer to that from the hunters and anglers point of view, but that doesn't mean that more compensation can't be coming from other sources, like I say, from agriculture, where taxes from every individual in Alberta is going into that department, and that money could be used to compensate. So that's something to consider for sure.
Changes were made to Alberta's predator compensation program about 3 years ago, with the federal government now kicking in 48%. Of course, the ranching community has also taken steps to reduce the risk of their livestock from being killed. So that brings us to the really big question, the acceptance of hunting predators as a management requirement.
And that seems to be something that a lot of the general public doesn't get. Every time somebody goes out and tries to propose to manage wolves or manage bears or manage cougars, there's an outcry that we should be leaving them as is. Well, it's very easy to say when you're sitting in your condo in Edmonton, not as easy to say when you've got a cougar walking across your back porch when you're up in the mountains there and trying to raise a family and run a business as your cattle operations.
And at this point, there is no word from Alberta Agriculture on whether or not they are going to contribute funds to the compensation program. We'll keep you posted.